Well, hello there, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. I do apologize. We're working through a couple things on Zoom, and we went going a little bit more Facebook Live. A couple of you are jumping on as you got the link for us on Zoom. So we got a combination, but most of it on Facebook Live here for the recording purposes, and for those that are jumping on here on Zoom. You certainly can. We sent out a mass email, and just like anything, what we're learning, I'm just a side note, mass email and mass texting, they're getting spammed quite a bit. And so talk to my coach, talk to other people in reference that are going through this, that it is challenging because you're trying to get information, you're trying to get content for people to join us, yet you get spammed all the time. So a lot of times we have to go through the Facebook portals to be able to draw in people because I'm not as popular or near as popular as uh, John Maxwell. I just got done speaking with the John Maxwell team. I'm very blessed and fortunate to be able to be a part of that and working on getting certified with them in their coaching program and heading down to Orlando, and just really, really excited about the opportunity to meet John and be in the rooms with him. So, but we were going through these challenges. When you speak and you coach, like it's not that simple just to be like, hey, I'm on Facebook. Come on over and take a look. Like there's so many different components that come into it. Just like, for example, what I'm going to teach with you today, like writing this book, turning scripts into conversations. Like you think you just go to the computer and start typing away. It doesn't work that way. Like there's so many behind the scenes. I'm literally, if I was to tell you to write down something, I would write down this. I'd write down, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It is such a huge, like people tell me they want to do a podcast. Like you have no idea how, like, and I say this nicely, and I'm not trying to sabotage everything, but like you got to work. You got to really want this. You got to really come in, failing forward, coming up with like every day, showing up day in and day out. And this is part of what I'm going to teach you guys this afternoon here. This morning, very shortly, is scripts into conversations, into having these conversations with people of the daily calls and the expireds and the for sale by owners and all these different ingredients is the same thing that we deal with in normal life. And personally, what I deal with of like, a podcast alone, for those, like I had no idea, but editing, marketing, the recording, going through everything literally is about $1,500 a month. And I only do it twice a month. And this is just peon little Brock over here who's trying to make his way up and climbing up the ladder. So like you can only imagine what the bigwigs are paying. And then when you get to that point though, then he gets sponsorships, but they don't come right away. It just like as much it is writing a book. It doesn't like type away and here you go and submit it. No, the publisher's like, no, that doesn't look good. No, you got to do it this way. How does this copyright? No, it's going to cost this. How much is printing? Oh, we got to send this. Do you want the book bound? Do you want it looking hardcover, soft cover? Like all these things. I'm like, holy smokes. I just thought, like, once again, you don't know what you don't know. And when you go into these phone conversations, and you talk about scripts and you talk about like, let me pick up the phone and make the phone calls. People just think all right, somebody on Messenger message me. People just think like it automatically, for those that make the phone calls, it is the grind, it is the grit, it is the consistency, it is doing it every single day when nobody answers the phone. It is the tracking system. Like, I mean, I got all my notes here. I was coaching a team. I was like, well, how do you keep track of everything? Well, I just have it on my online thing. Like, well, how's that working for you? You must have a lot of appointments then if you track it online. No, I don't have any. Well, if that isn't working, you got to find out what is working, and you got to be able to keep front of mind. What works for me might not work for you. So I'm going to give you different ideas. That is part of my books, turning scripts into conversations, because the first part of it, and the reason why I look over here is because my notes are over here, just to let you guys know. But you know, part of like even my chapter one, I call it same game, different approach. It is like when you talk about scripts, everybody goes to, at least the first thing that goes in my mind is Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Jeff Glover, Brian Bassini or Casella. I can't remember his last name, but like it's like everybody's got scripts. And I practice those scripts day in and day out. I learn them, I study them. For those that know my story, when I lost my license, I had to become a really, really good ISA. I was role playing at least 20 times a day. That is what gets you to the same game, different approach. Is I had my approach was different. I had to take this on at a different level, meaning I had to write down my scripts. I had to practice my scripts. I had to mirror my scripts in front of the mirror. I had to work on my smile. I had to work on standing up. I had to listen to music. That's why I have this headset. When I go into my game mode, it literally turns into this. I got music in the background and I'm listening to rap because rap, 80s rap gets me fired up for whatever reason. Back in the day, that's what I like to listen to. So I like a little Dr. Dre, a little Snoop Dogg, Eminem. That's what I listen to. But guess what? When I set up my appointments, nobody says I'm not going to get a list. I'm not going to have you come on over because I heard Snoop Dogg in the background. Okay. It doesn't happen, but I bought an expensive headset so it noise cancels so you can't hear. Like literally, you guys, for those that can hear me, see me on the video and everything else, and then it goes right back. Well, this is what I mean by same game, different approach. What I mean by it is listening to understand, not listening to respond. That's where a lot of people make the mistake is they're just like, I can't wait to share with you. Yeah, Greg, you know my rap. You get to listen to it on my podcast. It's my intro. But the thing is, guys, what separates me apart from other people is the consistency of doing it. What separates me is listening to understand, not to respond. What separates me is to being able to absorb and to feel the room, knowing I have a game plan. I've practiced it over and over again, like Larry Bird did with his free throws. There's nothing magical that I do. I just do it at an extremely high level. And when I look at that, I know everybody's talking about this rap on Facebook. Yes, I liked rap. I that was me. I was the one that had the speaker system and had the loudspeakers and the bass, and still to this day I do. But that's what I like. It gets me. I'm a big music person. I'm not big into TV, but I am into music. But the thing is, even when I was listening to John Maxwell and they were telling me, I mean, I had to go through a laundry list of questions. They were asking me specific, but it's a different level. So if you realistically, for those that are on here, tell me that you want, if this is what you're calling in for those that are listening in, and what I'm understanding is like, if you want to take your business to the next level, you have to do things and take activity or action steps to the next level. And I mean, I'm going to go over them with you here very shortly, but you have to be able to practice them. My word this year is integrity. I've been figuring out my word all of January of what it was going to be. And I finally came up with it in the beginning of February. Integrity is my word. Because I do a lot of social media, because I'm out doing different things and all this other nonsense that you have to do. And it's not to like, whoa, look at Brock, but it's like, that's what you have to do. You have to promote yourself. You have to get exposure. You have to be out there. You have to speak. But it's what I do behind the scenes, guys. It's what I do when you guys don't see me. It's what I do when I get up in the morning. It's how I practice. It's what I do, the discipline of what I have, you know, and I'm not going to get into my medical thing, but like still not allowing excuses to get in my way. It's still moving forward. So part of this book talks about the strategies, how to increase your listening skills. What skills do I need to do? Some of the stuff was Google, how to become a better listener. And you have to slow down. There's actually a formula, and I'll share it with you now. When people are speaking, the formula is you have to validate. So you have to validate, and then you have to add clarity will equal a question. So I validate what they said. So if D was on here, and for those in the Facebook world, or Janet or whoever was on here, and you said to me an objection or whatever it might be, I would say, oh, great. Okay, that makes sense. So D, you're really not too sure. You know, it sounds like you had a bad relationship with your previous agent. Is that correct? So what I did was I validated it. And then what I did was I gave clarity. So I completely understand. It sounds like to me you had a bad relationship with your previous client. Is that correct? So last night I was in a listing appointment. In a listing appointment, how many would you agree, for those that are on here? Janet's still on here, Greg and Dee, and those in the other Facebook world, and Glenn. How many would agree, thumbs up or tell me, that you would think that my conversation for expired listing is different than a past client listing? How many would agree that my conversation is different? And if yours is not different, then you need to make sure it is different, because there's different parts of it. So let me elaborate. So part of the book, like this is what I explained in the beginning of my book. The first several chapters, guys, are about literally stories of what goes on, studying the disc, understanding the disc, because to be able to do what I do, and for those that heard my story, it's not as if to say like, woe is me, or like, whoa, he's really cool. But I made over $200,000 talking to strangers. Like Saturday was $3.75 million in appointments I set up at a 3.5%, because all my commissions typically are 3.5%. It's over $100,000. What fires me up is like, why the hell am I not doing this more? And then that's a whole distraction piece of my life and time of efficiency of time that I'm working with. But I've mastered this at such a level that my expired conversations, when I go into it, I'm bombarding them with questions. My process stays the same in a listing presentation. My process stays the same in my phone calls. My process stays the same because when I go in, I'm here to look at your house. I like to have a tour. Please walk around with me. I'm getting data. I'm building rapport. Last night, both appointments yesterday were with dogs. They had dogs. Okay. If they're listening on here, which I don't think they are, because it's on my private page and on Zoom, they're not listening in. I'm not a dog person. Okay. I'm not a dog person, but guess what I have to be when I get into that environment? Oh, look at this cute little dog. What's your dog's name? Oh my gosh, how old is this dog? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. I become a dog person. So you got to be a chameleon when you come into it. You got to build the rapport when you're having these conversations. Okay. I don't tell them I hate dogs. It's not like I don't hate dogs. It's just, they're just a lot of work. I got 2 kids. That's enough for me. So when you go into it, you be able, like when Janet was just looking on here, she says all conversations are different. They are. So when I'm going into this, I'm asking them more questions about, tell me a little bit about, now, did your previous agent go over this with you? Did your previous agent discuss this with you? Did your previous agent give you angles from this point of view with the pictures? Last night was Twilight. I'm thinking about doing Twilight pictures. Do you guys have Twilight pictures? Guys, I know they don't have Twilight pictures because it wasn't on the MLS. That was me studying and preparing. So that question was done on purpose to make them feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that. It's all a script. But I can't go through, when you read the book, it doesn't have every single question that you possibly can ask. What it has is the mindset of preparing yourself before you go into that environment, just like my football coach mentality. That's why coaches, they prepare for you a situation. So when you see the situation in your element, like you didn't see the exact play, you couldn't, because it hasn't even performed yet. But you can look at it and be like, I remember something like this. I remember being in this, like there was a twin set. I got a running back over here. I think they're going to more than likely do that. And then you're advance before the play actually comes into it. And many times you'll hear announcers be like, man, I can't believe that guy. He was right there. It's because he's practiced, he prepared, he watched film, he studied, he role played, he did whatever he needed to do. And many of us talk the big game. We just don't prepare for the big game. Okay. There's a difference between talking the big game and preparing for the big game. We're going to see that this Sunday in the Super Bowl. So the thing is when I said to them, I said, gosh, did you guys do any Twilight pictures? No, man, let me just come on over here. Let me just show you. Imagine right here, we're going to get the fireplace going. We're going to do this, and we're going to have this set up over here. We could come from this angle here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a glass of wine and we're going to set it over here. Now, Megan, what do you think about that? I mean, Does that, I mean, have you ever done that? Yeah, I actually, my husband and I, we sit out here and we do this. Yep. I think that this is going to be emotion right here. Emotion equals action, Megan and Andrew. And when you have action and you have emotion, I have a better chance of making it in procuring an offer. Because did you get any offers on the previous with the previous agent? No. No, we didn't. Oh gosh. How many showings did you have? These are just scripts that we use in that time period to ask that. So why I feel it's important is because most people don't set themselves up in the correct mindset of what we're doing. And so when it comes time for my does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, for Facebook world, you can put it in the creating a new atmosphere. Yes, Greg. Yes, yep, absolutely. If anybody's got any questions on Zoom, you can just unmic yourself or you can put it in the chat. And same with Facebook that are doing it, as well as those that watch the recording. Feel free to put it in there because I will review it. But you want to be able to create something that you feel that they didn't do beforehand. Okay. I take the I take the MLS and I bring it with me. Now this is for expired guys. It's the same thing I do when I go into my conversations with them is, I specifically ask them an expired. Here's a script for you. And I'm just going to use Glenn because I'm seeing Glenn's name on here. If he was the pre-existing client in an expired listing, and the reason why I'm heavily talking about expireds right now, guys, is my focus is on expireds. I'm heavy hitting expireds. If you heard me in December, I was talking to for sale by owners because I was setting the stage with them. What's up, Glenn? There he is. I was setting the stage with them in pipeline in December. The market and where we are in the season has now shifted. So withdrawals and expires are now back because they're like, I'm done with the holidays. I was pissed off. I lost out. January 1st was a big, had one of the largest expireds. So what we do now is they're kind of done that. The season, and this is going to sound mean, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest because that's just what I am. When a close family member passes away, the immediate grieving is within that first month. And yes, it can continue to grieve. I'm not taking away from that. But as time continues, the grieving process diminishes. It's just like, man, I miss them, but the pain is not so much in the beginning of a death as it is 3 months, 4 months down the road. It's the same thing in the mindset when they go through a pain process of an expired. I hate real estate agents. I can't stand you all. You all suck. That's how they feel about us in January. But you get to February, 30 days later, they're like, my house still needs to sell now. And I'm going to need to talk to a real estate agent now. Like I've gone through this, like, okay. And this is why I'm hitting expires and withdrawals. And so I've been very fortunate with them recently and why I will continue bombard them. I'm going back to January 1st. If anybody's wondering my process, I'm going back to January 1st and I'm freaking hammering through them again because I think that their time period is ready for us to be able to go into that. So I'm starting to go back into January, calling the expireds, reaching out to them and having these type of conversations. And so when I'm talking to the expired, I will say to them, to go back to the Glenn situation, okay, if Glenn was the pre-existing agent, I will say, and also leaving voice messages sound the exact same way too, is I would say to them, I wanted to reach out to see what your plans are. Do you feel you're still going to use Glenn or are you going to be open to interviewing other agents? So who could tell me why you think I say their name? I do it for two reasons. Anybody have an idea of why? Or does anybody else use their name? Does anybody else practice the same thing? No. So the reason why I say their name is I feel it separates me that I'm knowledgeable. It's like, oh, this person already knows. Yep, validated happened. It just allows them to be like, oh, he knows already who I've used. Like this guy is no dum dum. I'm not a recording. That's why I don't do what other people do. And when you have a dialer, you could just hit a recording and then you get a recorded voice that I don't do that. I will specifically say because people will call me back to the appointments I set up. Called me back, by the way. Okay. So that's why I leave voice messages. I can guarantee you 100% that the chances of them calling you back if you don't leave a voice message is very low. So if I actually leave a voice message, my chances increase drastically. Most people just don't know what to say. So I say to them, I saw that you had Glenn, you were using Glenn last time. Not too sure if you're still planning to use him, but I would love an opportunity to interview for the position. So if you are interested, please give me a call or text at this number. And I slow down drastically to share my number. That way, if they're calling me, how many of us don't like to answer the phone? Like most people don't like to answer their phone. Okay. But if I did my calls in the morning, I'm freaking answer my phone. Like I'll like, Brielle, hold on. I got to take this call because I feel I already engaged and told them if you're interested in interviewing for me to call me back. So there's actually more of like the conversation is more. I didn't give them some stupid line, excuse my language, like I might have a buyer for you, so just give me a call. Like, no, well, I don't really have a buyer for you at all. I'm calling to list your property. So the interest is much higher. And that is why I say the name. So I say the name that I'm no dum-dum. I could see it. Maybe I've done some more research. If it's in an area I've done business with, I acknowledge that. And I say this during the conversation as well. Hey D, how you doing? Great, wonderful. And when they go into, so I just wanted to ask you, are you still going to be using Glenn or are you going in a different direction? What does that look like for you? And I pause, but I state that. And guess what happens? Facebook world. Guess what happens when I say that question? Are you still going to use this person? And this typically happens all the time with withdrawals right now, what I've noticed. What do you think they say about that real estate agent? Do you think that they're like really excited about, like, do you think they give raving reviews to that agent? No, they just rip that person apart. So I don't say anything mean because I didn't have to say anything mean. All I say is now let me just ask you, do you think you're going to go back with Janet on this? Are you still going to use Janet as your real estate agent? Let me just tell you what Janet has done. Oh, wow. Seems like you're not too excited about Janet. No. I'm like, well, what did Janet do? That kind of irked you a little bit. Once again, I validated that she said, oh, Janet. Okay. What did Janet do? I asked a question again. I want to know a little bit more what Janet's doing. Wow, it sounds like to me that Janet didn't do this, 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 and this. Is that correct? There's the validity, there's the clarity, there's the question. Janet's worked miracles. I'm sure you have, Janet. I know you have worked miracles. So if you can keep validate, clarity, question in that formula throughout your process and write it down, you're going to have more success when you ask when people are talking. And then if you keep diving deeper, there's a line that says, go narrow and deep, not shallow and wide. Because if you just go off your script the entire time, well, it says here I'm supposed to ask the question, where do you want to move to next? To be honest with you, I sometimes don't even ask that question until the very, 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 very end, unless I'm in a stagnant position and I have no place else to go, then I ask you, where are you moving to next? But most of the time, this one lady, which she's not on here, which I can share, I mean, she's having a jaw. She's getting her jawline. Something's wrong with her jaw. She has to have surgery. It's her second surgery. She's doing the surgery up in Wake Forest. She has a property in New Mexico. She's trying to sell this property here at the lake. It's in Denver. It's on the water, 2.3 million. And she went into the whole litany of whatever she's doing by me saying, oh gosh, you had jaw surgery? I actually had some surgery on my jaw. What happened with you? It just snowballed. Listen to understand, not listen to respond. Because if I listened to respond, what I would have said, oh, your jaw? Great. So where are you moving to next? See, that's what most agents do because it says question number 4 on my script says I'm supposed to now ask this question, where do you want to move to next? Right? Instead of to understand, oh, talk to me a little bit more about your jaw. The questions will eventually get there. Literally, the lady wanted to hear my podcast about me and my mom. I had to send her over not had to. I was like, I can send you over the podcast. The day later, she sent me a response on listening to my podcast. Guys, I just started talking to her the day before for 20 minutes. That's it. Now we're podcast buds. Because you change the way that you listen to people and you respond to them in the appropriate way to understand what they're trying to get at. So, in order to do this, the second chapter of my book talks about understanding yourself. So, Glenn, Dee, Janet, Greg, Maritza, I can't see some of the other people's names in the Facebook world that were on here. Do you understand your own disc personality? Do you know what level you are? Do you know if you're a D? You know if you're an I? You know what your S, C? Do you know what level you are? Are you a capital letter? Are you a capital letter? Like, do you know your formula? Like, the disc personality is very, very important to understand. I'm a high D, lowercase I. Okay. I also know that as the day progresses, my eye becomes even worse. So like it lowers a little bit because I get tired and I turn into an introvert and I'm just like, I don't want to talk. Like I'm tired of talking. I've been talking all day. So if I know that I'm doing late night calls, my day is set up a little bit differently because I need my energy to bring it to the game in the evening time. It's just a plan, guys. When the NFL teams have a West Coast game, for those that pay attention to the NFL and listen to them in depth, Glenn's got to be an Eagles fan being up in Pennsylvania. He is. I knew it. So when they go out to whatever it is, especially you'll hear East Coast teams playing on the West Coast. Oh, it's a late start. We got to do this. People in the NFL teams go to Europe. They'll go out actually several days in advance to get themselves acclimated to the environment and to the time. Guys, this isn't anything special. So when I know I have evening calls on my schedule, hence my efficiency of time class and why I try to work with people's schedule. Brock, how do you get everything done? Because I work on my schedule. I practice my schedule. I study my schedule. I know that if I'm doing evening calls, I got to bring my A game. So I'm probably not pounding the phones first thing in the morning. I schedule a little bit differently. I eat a little bit earlier, so I'm not tired at 6 o'clock when I'm making my calls. I eat, I have my energy levels high when it comes time for that. So I understand myself. That's why understanding yourself is so important. Understanding when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. And so the Tony Robbins disc assessment is what I put in here in this chapter is to also spend $100 and get the full report. It's worth it. We'll go to a restaurant, spend $100 on wine and drinks and appetizers and food, but we won't spend $100 on ourselves on a report that you could take with you forever. Like you go out to dinner, that dinner is just for that 2 hours and that's it. So I strongly recommend you understanding yourself and what that's all about and knowing the different personalities that you have. And then once you understand your personality, I believe that one must understand themselves before they can start analyzing others. So when I'm in conversations, I'm able to understand people and what that's all about. I'm able to work with it when it comes time for what I'm trying to do and how to be able to absorb that when it comes into that into that disc. It's like, okay, this is what I need to know. Okay. And now that I understand myself, let me start understanding this other person's personality. What do they have? The guy yesterday, oh my Lord, it was all I could do. And once again, see, that's why I like doing it on the private side on the Facebook and different things, right? And Janet, I see most people react rather than respond. Yes, this guy was a huge, I mean, like he talked about the brick. Okay. There was a brick mortar issue. Okay. And so I asked him the question, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Sammy and Sally were their names, literally their names. Sammy and Sally, listen, do you feel absolutely confident and comfortable that myself and my team are the ones that you're going to hire us today to sell your house? That's my line. That's my closing. Okay. Yeah, no, I feel very, very comfortable. I definitely want to do it. And I'm very excited. They had two appointments after. I'll tell you a funny story after this, but they had two appointments after me. And I said, okay, are you ready to sign? And he goes, I am. But that brick. And I was like, that's it. I was like, if I don't talk about this brick, I am not going to get this deal signed. So I said, Sammy, where's this brick? Where do we have this brick? He's like, it's in the back of the house in the crawl space. Let's go see it. Let's go see this brick. Because if I didn't address this brick and have a conversation about this brick, the brick is going to hold me up from getting signatures. So we bebop and we go down, we go outside, we go down the crawl space, we open it up, and I looked at this brick and I even showed him different examples of his. I said, is it right here? He goes, no, it's not there. I said, see this? This happened before you purchased your house because you've never fixed this before, have you? He's like, no. I said, have you still lived in your house and you okay? It hasn't fallen apart? He's like, yeah, we've lived here for 7 years. So this is exactly, now go show me where your brick is. We go down the hill and he shows me where it is. I said, did you see what we did, what they did in the front of the house? This is exactly what they're going to do here. And that's why I was sharing with you, like, this is really not a big problem. But just like I said to you, if I went to your job, I would be overwhelmed because you can do this and you'd be like, this is nothing. And so this is where I'm sharing with you is this is nothing. Here's where it's already been fixed. You've lived in your house. This is all they're going to do here. And we can get this taken care of. If I can get this taken care of, do you feel comfortable and confident that we can move forward? Oh, I do. I'm just so happy you don't feel that this is a big issue. Walked back up the stairs. We sat back down. Just like if we took a TV timeout, I came back in. So now, do you feel absolutely confident and comfortable now that the brick is fixed that we are the team that can sell your house? And he said, yes. And he signs the piece of paper. Then I had another issue at my hands, and I'll just share this one thing for you. For those of you, this is bonus material on scripts. I've never done it before. And Wendy was there at the time period, and I was so it's like it was pretty comical. We go in. So when you have people that are signing in after you, they say to us, well, what am I going to do with the other people? Because we have these other appointments if I sign with you. All right. Has anybody had this happen? Because if you want, like, you're going in to get signatures. It's not like, well, I know, because I knew that they had other people behind them. Okay. Behind us. Like, I don't really care. I mean, I'm in it to win. So I go in there, we have the conversation, and we go in and we say, well, what about the other people? Listen, we'll call them and cancel the appointments for you. We'll tell them that, unfortunately, we've got the listing and we'll just let them know we'll cancel it. Now, I've said this before, guys. I've done this exact script before, but I've never had the response come back. The wife goes, you guys would do that for us? I'm like, yeah, of course we would do that. Oh, Sammy, let's have them call. I'm like, oh my Lord, seriously? She gave me 3 numbers of people that they had. Okay. I knew a couple of them. So I'm like, oh my, see, if I don't know you, I don't feel as bad, but I knew you. I had to call them. I've never had to do that before, but I had to call them. And guess what? Wendy's like, what are you going to say? I said, I have no idea yet. I have no clue until I talk to them. But I said, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to answer the phone because most real estate agents don't answer the phone. Not one single one of them answer their phone. And I just left the message and shared with them in a and it was as nice as I possibly could be in a non-arrogant manner. And I told them they can call me back. Guess how many of them called me back? None of them called me back. Would you rather call them than they call you? Would I rather the seller call?
No, I would rather call them and tell them that I got the listing than they call me and tell me they got it.
Why is that?
Because they got the listing.
So you would rather call the other agent, the potential agent, and say, hey, you got the listing?
Yes. Yeah. And let them know that they chose. But, the good news is, I'd rather call you because I was the first one in and got their signature. Hey, by the way, Brock, I got the listing on the property. Just want to let you know we're listing at this price, so on and so forth. I'd love the opportunity if you want to come and, show it beforehand. We're starting showings. And I say that I'd rather do that than you happen to go first and you call me to say, hey, Glenn, I got the listing.
Right. And I'll be trained. I agree with you because in the mindset world, the script world of what I've heard with Mike Ferry, I'll just tell you the mindset that I was in yesterday to give you full transparency. I felt like I was a jackass. And unfortunately, I tend to have that personality already out there in the industry that I take people's listings because I get a lot of expireds and withdrawals. So I had an emotional moment of like my own self, which let's just say within 30 seconds I was over it. But that was kind of like my mindset. I was just like, "Well, I feel bad." Like, and one of them was she was on my team before in the past. Like, so I was just like, one, it was like, congratulations. I'm glad you're making your calls. But I agree with you, Glenn. Like, I mean, it was one of those little, emotional parties I was having myself. But when it was all said and done with, I'm like, all right, when are we doing the pictures? Let's move on. Let's get to the next listing. But it's the understanding of whatever the problem is when you're listening to understand and the brick was the part that was his hiccup. And once I actually said, okay, I got to handle this brick, whatever it might be, you have to go into it and be like, all right, let's handle the problem. Here's the solution and let's move on. My coach tells me all the time, money exchanges hands when problems are solved. Okay, you got to come up with solutions to be able to do this to make them feel comfortable and confident. And that is what my line is. If you feel absolutely confident and comfortable with what I presented to you, are my team and I the ones that you're going to hire today. So let me get back to the book. So understanding the personalities, understanding what's going on, understanding their personality. He was an S. Okay. He was an S and an I. And so I knew that going into it. And so they're also one of the things that I was, in S and I, our second listing appointment that we had, they were very loyal. And so we had a little bit of stumbling blocks of me getting the appointment signature signed. And so we had to go through that hiccup of understanding. And so in order to come over loyalty, you have to come with, you got to really over deliver and under promise. You got to really bring it hard. You got to bring extra value in order to give them over that threshold. So some of the things that we talk about where I put in here in the next chapter, some of the questions, your prep time of things that I'm looking at, I'm doing is understanding the average day on the market. Why didn't your house sell during this time period when the average day on the market was this? Telling people why most real estate agents, and I'm using this in a way, but my get go is why most real estate agents are fired. Does anybody know the biggest reason when I talk to expireds? And for those that talk to expireds, the biggest, besides they didn't sell their house, we know that that's one of the reasons. They're number one. Well, they didn't sell my house. That's why I fired them. I get that. But do you know what like the second biggest reason? Yep. D's got it. Glenn's got it over here. Let me check the Facebook world. That, yes, exactly. They don't have it because of lack of communication. So the script I immediately go through, right on, Greg, when they say lack of communication, I immediately answer that with the solution of what we do. See, I don't wait till the marketing piece. Like, let me tell you all about my marketing. No, like I'm sharing my marketing while I'm having my conversations. Lack of communication. Yet that actually is the number one reason besides them not selling their house. Selling your house is why most real estate agents are expired. So I assume that they didn't do your weekly call. What did your weekly call sound like then? See, I know they didn't do a weekly call. That's why I put that in there. And so I didn't have to say like, wow, look at me. I said, so what did your weekly call look like? We didn't have a weekly call. Well, how'd you know what was going on then? I mean, I know lack of communication, but they must have had some form of communication. Did they at least talk to you once a week? No, we didn't get any of that. Let me ask you this, Jim. Did you notice that as the contract and the days on the market increase, your lack of communication increased? Is that fair to say? And we know that as preparation of my script, that is typically what happens because most agents, the reason why the gap becomes bigger, right, is because they don't know what else to say. The relationship is already falling apart. I'm going to use this in relationships with divorces and marriages. When there's problems in your relationship, you tend to talk less. And then you end up doing your own thing. And then people are hanging out with their own friends. And that distance increases and your conversations decreases. So that means it's just going to at some point fall apart. But as you know, when you get married, your conversations are hot and heavy, just like a listing agreement. At that point, the conversations are hot and heavy. But as the days on the market increases, the separation increases, your conversations decrease. And so you want to make sure that we're validating with them. Well, we do a weekly call every Tuesday. Tuesday afternoons is when I do my weekly calls. We check in. And the reason for that is I get all the data from Monday, from over the weekend. I talk to my transaction coordinator on Monday, and then we come up with a game plan, and we will talk about that on our Tuesday weekly calls. Would that be okay? Now, what do you think they say at that point? Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Okay. So understanding the reason behind the days on the market, understanding the lack of communication, because if all we say is lack of communication is a big issue and you move on, you didn't give them an emotional attachment to be able to win. See, every deal, guys, I told you listing number 1, we were up against 4 people. Listing number 2 last night, we were told that he said that they had a half a dozen to a dozen interviews. Okay. Don't think you're the only person being interviewed. You got to bring your game soon as you're starting the conversation. And so understanding why real estate agents are getting fired, but to be able to put a story behind it is so powerful. The next question that I put on here, what makes you different and separates you from the pack? I put that on here specifically, Glenn, so that way people understand. Like I share. Listen, have you noticed anything different from what we've done so far? Have we been able to separate ourselves? It's not to toot my own horn, but I'm already putting I'm driving it home. I'm freaking hammering it in to divide myself and making sure that yeah, like, I'm like, how many times have you talked to us compared to the others? We've talked to you the most. See, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just trying to acknowledge the separation that I'm creating, right? Jim likes the weekly calls. These are just things that I separate, and I put in here, I'm not announcing myself like I just here I am, congratulations to me, here's my trophy, this is why I'm so. No, I put in here stories of different anecdotes of what separates us and asking them, how many other people have done this so far? And I set the stage because somebody might be like, well, yeah, a couple of people already did. I'm like, oh, damn. Okay. Got to keep going. Keep going, Brock. Let me figure out what separates me. But that increases my game, increases my conversations, my value of what I got going on as I'm walking through the house. When you're going into appointments, it's very, very important to understand 2 times that you can meet. Okay. And I'm going to end here in about a couple minutes to open up for Q&A. So when you go in to this, you have to know your times you are going to meet. Please do not do this either. If you are making your phone calls, unless it's like a freaking, like you have no choice, don't meet the same day. Never meet the same day. And I'm also going to share with you a couple words that you need to do. Because they might say, well, can you meet today? Well, to be honest with you, I really would like to meet tomorrow because I have to do research on your home to put together my file. See, I see research and file on purpose. One is because when I think of research, it's usually like it's not a 1-paragraph thing. Our mindset tells us this is a drawn out thing. There's a lot of paperwork. I like, oh gosh, I got to write a 5-page paper. I got to do research. I got to go to the library. I got to go online. I got to do all this stuff. A file typically means if you go to the dentist or the doctor or your school, or you got problems, jail, it's like, let me pull out his file. It's usually pretty thick. So I set the stage on that. Now, if they say, hey, we're making a decision tonight, well, guess what? I'm going to go see you tonight. But for the most part, I typically do it the next day. And I do set up a appointment, right? A pre-listing appointment consultation while I'm on the phone. So literally what it sounds like is, Maritza, listen, I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to our appointment. So I could either do tomorrow at 2 or how does 6 o'clock sound? Oh, we could do 6. All right, great. Now, is it just you selling the house or is there anybody else involved? Oh, great. So you and your husband. Perfect. So what I would like is you, Maritza, you and Johnny, You guys are going to be there at 6. I appreciate that. Now, I'm going to be putting together my research for your file. Would I be able to talk to you tomorrow around 1 o'clock for about 10 minutes just to go over a couple things to make sure I have everything? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. 1 o'clock's fine. See, I'm already setting the stage because I don't know how many people she also said yes to. I also don't know if anybody else has immediately set up a pre-listing consultation for 10 minutes. And to me, I'm already immediately separating myself because I don't know who else is doing that. But I want to set the bar. And I think most people aren't doing that. So that helps me separate myself when I'm doing my pre-consultation. That's when I do my pre-qual. That's when I ask them how much money they owe. I'm building more rapport. I'm asking them how many more other people they might be interviewing. Are they making decisions? At that point, I might say, hey, where are you moving to? I don't want to make you homeless. I might follow up with that. Those things that we have there. It's 11:52. I have to coach a team in Florida at 12:15, so I have to get ready for that. Who's got questions for me? I have time for questions. Somebody has to give me a question. Somebody has to give me something, a takeaway, maybe something. Facebook world, let me pull you back up here. But somebody's got to give me something that I just didn't waste my breath and talk about nothing here. Could somebody give me an aha? Somebody give me a takeaway? Somebody give me a question while I get a drink.
Brock, you had mentioned that the first and the most repetitive issue with expireds previously is communication. What have you seen? What comes second in that lineup of what you've seen over the?
So lack of education, lack of sales. They don't have any skills. They don't have very good follow up. So skills would be the next thing that people don't have. There was no activity. We didn't do any open houses. They didn't they didn't tell us. Communication really can go with so many different things, but typically it's activities. Did you do your weekly call? How many open houses did you have? That sort of thing. Like what is that? Those sorts of things. And I usually get to 2 or 3. And the reason why I just go to 2 or 3 is because they end up diarrhea of the mouth. They end up telling me more and more stuff, but it's usually lack of communication, the skill set for they didn't know what they were doing, lack of inexperience for what I mean, these people like marketing is another thing. They didn't market very well. They didn't know how to promote stuff. Here's a key ingredient, guys. I'm going to tell you this. You should find out so here's there are 3 cities that we say when we're marketing and doing high level marketing. You should be specific. So when I tell them, I say, well, what type of outside marketing did they do outside of Charlotte? That's a script. Write it down. What type of outside marketing outside your local area did they do? And guess what most people say? I don't know. I have no idea. They didn't say anything. Okay, so they didn't bring up in Charlotte, our area is, and Jim for Nashville could be the same thing for your area. But I take big cities and I say, well, typically the main cities, which we do, is New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Those are the 3 cities we state. And then I give them reasons. New York City is because the cost of living and taxes is why a lot of people are relocating out of there. Chicago is because of the violence and because of what's happening in the Chicago area. There's just like the police. It's terrible up there. There's a lot of people scared. And Los Angeles is because of cost of living, but the government in that area is so like they control everything that even the capital gains now, people that like here, we have to live here for 2 years. In California, they have to live there for 8 years and they still get capital gains tax all the way to 8 years. Can you imagine that, seller? Oh my gosh. See, I give them value of why I even pick the cities and emphasizing that this person didn't even go into that and know to market outside the area because Charlotte for us is a relocating hub. There's a lot of people. It's a financial capital of the world. One of them. Okay. So does that help you out, Jim, of understanding this? I guess the second one is just skills and marketing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was helpful. During your weekly meetings, you said you devised a plan. What are some tactics that you utilize in that plan? Like, are you just having a conversation? Are you sending over kind of a data sheet, number of showings that happened, what you've marketed, or is it really just kind of a conversation and then, hey, we're going to do this coming week?
Yep, good question. So what we do is um sorry. What we do is we go into it, and Showing Time has a report. So Showing Time gets a full report, their feedback of how many showings, what we have and what's going on. We do that, but we also look at some of the data. We see how many clicks are going. We see how much traction's happening. Like if there's crickets, then we know we have to have a price conversation. If we hear that, a lot of people at the open house, but they didn't like this with the house. So guys, we can either do this. I mean, it's a condition thing. We're having the conversations, price, condition, location, and we just go over that. We repeat it. It's a normal conversation to some aspect, but we are setting the stage, especially if we're trying to do a price improvement, especially if we're trying to do open houses the upcoming week. If there's something that is there where like, guys, maybe we should, do this. Why don't you paint that room? I think painting that room is going to make a big difference on there, whatever it might be, but we're talking about it and we're setting the stage. Coach Jeff Glover taught this to me. We're always telling what we're going to do next. This is what we're going to do next. This is what you can expect from us. We're going to continue to pour into social media. We're going to continue to do this. Would you mind if we tag you? You always want to tag them because then they get to see it and they love seeing. Did you see my house? They're always asking their friends and family, did you see my house? That sort of thing. We send them over different websites. Hey, we made some changes to the website. We rotated the pictures around. Would you like that link so you can share it? So stuff like that. Good question. Anybody else? Jeff, Greg asked, how do I get the book? So it is still in the publicating. I was working on it in October and I had some hiccups and some challenges because I didn't realize the capacity of what goes on with the book. So I'm hoping to have the book out. We do have people that if you want, you can email or put your email in the chat. And then we have a book Excel sheet that all the people that when the book is released, you will get an email notifying you. So if you do want the book, Turning Scripts into Conversations, just put your email in the chat and we will put you on our list and get that out to you. And we hope to have it out here. It's definitely going to be, I'm hoping the first half of this year. So we will get that over to you. So thanks, Dee. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you were able to get something. Anybody got anything they want to add or anything that they got from it that they want to put in? All right, guys. Well, keep cracking. I'm telling you, the expireds are shifting and changing. I think there's opportunities out there for sure. And it's been working for me and I'm not any different than anybody else. I just literally just do it. I do it on a consistent basis. I have to do a minimum of 60 minutes a day. That is my minimum. It is not, I like to do at least 120 minutes, but 60 minutes each and every day is what I have to do. It's part of the book. Scott Groves has it. Where is it? If I can find it really quickly. This is a great book. Lead Generate 61 Days, How to Double Your Pay. I'm telling you this right now. If you just do 60 minutes a day, you will get results. But Lead Generate 61 minutes or 61 days is the book that I read that I really, really enjoy. So guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. For those that watch the recording, please feel free to put any chats, comments, whatever it is that you need. If I can help you out, be a resource. You want to be part of our Power Players. If you want to be part of any coaching program I do, Coach Burt, my coach, will be with me next Friday, happy hour. So join us. Love to have you there. It's going to be good. We got some really Bill Gallagher for those in the Charlotte area is going to be there. Larry Laughter. We got a couple notable type of people that are going to be there. We got some people traveling as well coming up. So BZ3coachbert.com is the website. Love to be able to have you guys there. It's next Friday, happy hour from 4 to 7, Old Mecklenburg Brewery. And guys, I appreciate it. It is in person, Jim, that event. But if you want to be part of our Power Players group coaching, anything like that, you could check us out at bz3enterprises.com. That has all my coaching programs and what we do to help you get to the goals that you want to get to. Guys, have a great day. Appreciate y'all. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 8:15 on our Mindset Motivation Show. Bye, guys.
Brock, appreciate you, brother.
See you, Jim. See you, Glenn, Maritza, Greg, Janet, Christy, for those that I can still see. Bye.